says I should rotate my... I can't do that. Because it turns it upside down. I'm going to leave it now. I'll correct it when I... What she said. Okay, now I need you to do something.
Yeah.
You have to listen in.
Okay, let me get mine.
You should be able to hear whatever is going on the...
Do you want me to put this one on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you hear it? Can you
Yeah.
hear? Excellent. Yeah, let's start it. You have to speak into that.
Okay.
Good evening and welcome to Kiki's Chat Show. Today is today's the 12th, isn't it?
Today's the 12th,
The 12th of June. It's like a joke, but the week is kind of going very quickly. And today we're talking about one of the biggest problems in the world, actually. This problem is beyond religion, beyond class, beyond race. It happens to people in different levels of society. It happens to princesses, dukes and duchesses, normal people. It happens to lawyers, doctors. It happens to teachers. It happens to everyone. Well, when I say everyone, it happens to a great number of people in the world. It is a worldwide plague upon us, and it is domestic violence. Now, domestic violence is something that we still haven't got a hang on it, and it's getting worse rather than getting better. We have social media, we have people talking about it on television, we have it in our soaps, EastEnders, we have it everywhere, and yet still, it is getting worse. Now, the forms that it comes in is what is baffling. Now, we're going to talk about the different forms of domestic violence. But before that, again, I will say welcome to Kiki's Chat Show. We're on ABN. ABN is the Afropolitan radio station of the diaspora. It is the best radio station in the diaspora outside of Ghana, outside of Africa, and people from all over Africa listen to it. People listen to it from the States. All my friends listen to it all over the world. The other day, I had a caller from Azerbaijan, which fascinated me because I didn't know they could get the station. So people, yes, I love you all of you. Now, it is raining bitterly and terribly in London at the moment, and yet we're supposed to be in summer. So that is also something which is baffling. We're not happy because we were getting excited. We're so fed up with the weather. We're in June, and you could think that the weather was going to be nice, and even if it was warm, not hot, but warm, we would take it like that. It is wet. Cats, dogs, rats, mice, everybody's cold and shivering. It's horrible. But we still love Mother Nature, and we will take whatever she gives us. Isn't it?
That's right.
Okay, now today I have a guest. And my guest is somebody who I'm in awe of. Her name is Marie Amoakwa Wedu.
That's right.
Yes. And she's an educator and advocate for issues that affect underprivileged women and girls in Ghana. Particularly in Ghana. Example is schools under trees. Because there are a lot of children who go to school is under a tree. There is no shelter. It rains upon them. The sun is hot, it's hot upon them. You know, that sort of thing. I saw a video actually on one of your with water streaming into the school.
Into the school, that's right.
Yeah. And also she deals with maternal deaths. She deals with gender inequality, which is also something that is very close to my heart. She's a founder of Ghana Diaspora Women, and she's a co-host of Time with Eric and Marie. Eric is your husband.
That's right.
Yes. So it's a Facebook Live program which focuses on personal development and marriage. So she's the best person to be chatting with me. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, Miss Kiki.
It's a pleasure. Now, we're going to talk about I don't know whether to say it's the rise or it's because statistics show that it's, 10 years ago there were less, and it's not because of social media or anything, but reports at police stations and the way things are going all over the world. Women especially, of course there's 5% of men, but women especially are experiencing domestic violence to the level where they're being killed or maimed. And the children, one of the things that's happening now is the children are also being attacked and even killed, just despite the women's. What is your view on this?
So, domestic violence, as you said, or as you just mentioned, I wouldn't want to say it's on the rise. I think it's becoming more. It's coming. People are now realizing it more on a larger scale. I believe
think so?
Because of social media.
Really?
Because now many more women are speaking up. Now I know it's something that men also experience. Some men also experience, but many more people are now fed up. They now realize that okay, we have a tool which we could use to expose what we're going through. The women, especially within our Ghanaian community.
Okay.
I have seen on social media, Facebook in particular, where women have come and washed their dirty linen, things that were going on in their marriages and why they've had to leave. So I think it's...
So are you saying that now there are more women who've left their marriages because of this?
More women have become aware. They've become more empowered, I believe. So they now have the strength to leave.
Really?
Yes, that's what I personally believe. Because social media, to a certain degree, is revealing that to us.
Okay.
Yeah.
First of all, we can talk about domestic violence and explain to people what we mean by domestic violence. Do you want to tell us?
When we talk about domestic violence, it's abuse. Abuse in so many different forms. Now, there are about 4 main ones that society really hammers on. A lot of the times when people hear the word abuse, their minds drift to physical abuse.
Physical assault.
Physical assaults, yes. But then it's important that we understand that economic abuse exists.
Yes.
In terms of if one partner is solely in charge of the finances and the other party is sort of being denied access to the finances in the marriage or in the relationship, that is a problem. Or that is a form of abuse. Sexual abuse. So where even as a married person, if you're not giving consent, sometimes society doesn't realize that even as a married person, if you're not giving consent for sexual intimacy, that is abuse in marriage, sexual abuse in marriage or in a relationship.
So when the man feels that he's married you, and I'm talking about women being assaulted in this situation, because, the sexual assault is when the man wants sex every day or something, and the woman says, I don't feel like it, I have a headache or something, and he then forces himself on you. That is a form of abuse.
That is a form of abuse. That is sexual abuse.
Okay.
Because in this case, your body is being used as an object. Now, we do acknowledge that when it comes to sex, it is one of the needs of a man. However, in a situation where it could be your wife, your partner, because we don't want to focus too much on marriage here. Not everybody is married, and we do respect that.
Yeah.
But in a case where your partner is saying, I am not available for sexual intimacy at this given moment, that right should be respected. So if one person or the other party then forces themselves on them, that is sexual abuse because they've not given you consent.
Yes.
So that is abuse.
Okay.
Then we talk about verbal abuse. This is where you're being called names, insults, verbal is verbal. But the one that is subtle, that some people up to now still don't really realize that it's a form of abuse, is the emotional abuse.
Yes.
Where you're being demeaned in a relationship. You're not being made to feel as though you're valued as a person. Your opinions are valued in the relationship. It's a monotonous kind of relationship where it's just one person's agenda and you must come along with it.
Yes.
That is abuse.
Yeah.
So, typical example, say, and I can only use a married couple. Say you're...
Oh, yeah, married
Yeah,
couple,
let me just
fine.
go ahead. So one party gets up, for example, and we see this especially with the men of, our ethnicity, where a man gets up and he doesn't even greet you. He feels like, you're not worthy to, for him to say good morning to or anything of that. So but then he expects you to make yourself available for his needs, i.e. get his things ready for work, perhaps prepare his breakfast and all of these things. And then he just leaves, goes to work, 9 to 5 perhaps. In the course of the day, he's not even calling, not even once. I mean, today we have technology, not calling, not texting, not WhatsApping you or anything to find out how you're doing, not sending you any love messages or anything like that. Comes back home in the evenings, doesn't greet you, yet expects his dinner to be ready and all of these things. That is emotional abuse because you're not being valued. And in effect, what is happening, especially to women in this instance, is they're losing their self-worth.
They begin to
They begin to lose their sense of self.
Yes.
Who they are as a woman.
Yeah.
So then the self-esteem goes down. Self-love goes down. Because I've seen women, I've counseled women who I knew them at a certain stage in their lives and how they were, prim and proper, okay, they, you know, their sense of fashion and everything. And then they get married, and after a number of years, you see them and you can clearly tell that something is just not right in the relationship. But then you ask them, and us women are very good at this. We put on a facade. Everything is okay. Why? Because we are taught, especially those of us from Africa. Ghana, I'm Ghanaian, you're Ghanaian. Those of us from Ghana, we are taught that as you're going into this marriage, kawanutum, be quiet.
Don't tell your friends.
Don't tell your friends.
Don't talk.
Some parents will even tell you, don't come to us if anything happens. We don't want to know. Sort it out between yourselves. You know. So many people go into marriages. Things are happening in the marriage, but there's nobody to talk to. And then you have the church. The last person they feel they can trust and talk to who can help them resolve some of these issues are the pastors. But then they go to the church, they go to their pastors, the pastor's wife. She perhaps is going through similar or even worse than what you're going through in your own marriage. So they're very quick, and many of them, I'm afraid to say, are inexperienced in terms of some of these things. Because these things are psychological. They do have a psychological impact on whoever the victim is, whoever the victim is in the abusive relationship. So a lot of the times the church or the pastors will tell you, go and pray about it. Because that is almost like a safety net, you know, not to expose their own inexperience in dealing with such matters. They're very quick to say to you, go and pray about it. Forgetting that many people who go through such things, especially within our community, because Ghanaians, you know, if we're tailoring this to our country, Ghana, or to our community, the majority of us go to church anyway. The majority of us are believers, Christians. We pray anyway. So for you to be going through something like this and your pastor telling you go and pray about it, well, I'm praying about it anyway. So why are you telling me to go and pray more? I want you to be able to pinpoint, first of all, hear me out, feel what I'm feeling, hear me, and be able to point me in the right direction to get help. Sometimes it's to the point where people need to leave. You need to leave. You need to exit the relationship. But then they'll tell you that God hates divorce. So go back, stay in there, and somehow make it work. And this is how sometimes, unfortunately, people die in such relationships. Yeah.
Because they haven't got anyone to go to. They haven't got anyone listening to them, and they've been told stay in that relationship
and keep praying.
So
things
really,
will work out.
These pastors are part of the problem.
I believe so. I strongly believe so.
Some families are also part of the problem.
Absolutely.
Because for them, it's society, and they'll be embarrassed.
And it's a stigma on the family.
Stigma.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. So we've got all of these things now. Just what you said, I have a recording that I want to play, that I want people to listen carefully to this recording, because it's a domestic abuse recording, and it's a story that a woman is telling. So I want everyone to listen attentively to what is happening there. people, she got flowers. And she kept getting flowers. He kept saying whatever he was saying. And eventually she died. Now, this is exactly what we're talking about. One of the other things that people are not aware of is that women die around the time when they are planning to leave or they threaten to leave. That's when they're beating to pulp, and that's when they die, or their children die, or some drastic and horrible thing happens to them. We all need to be vigilant about these things. So my question to you is, why do people stay in this situation? Apart from the priest and the parents and all of that, why don't they themselves find ways to get out? Is it because they have not been taught? Is it because they are not aware of where to go? Why do they stay?
Now, that's the big question in all of this. Why do people stay? Personally, I believe people stay because of love. Love is the strongest emotion in the universe. So here is somebody who believes that this person loves me and I love them too.
Mm-hmm.
Now here is a person whom I love who's hurting me. Yet they come back every single time and they say, I am sorry. And in this case, in the case of the video we just listened to, because I've actually seen that video,
Mm-hmm.
in the case of that young girl, she kept getting flowers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so 1 minute he's hurting you, next minute he's bringing flowers. What do you think is happening to your psyche? They're playing with your mind. So they do it in such a way that you lose, as we were saying earlier, you lose your sense of self.
Mm-hmm.
Now the sense of self is the mind.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words,
She's lost her mind.
you've gone beyond confusion. You're not even confused anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't know what is happening. You don't know who you are anymore. You don't know who you're with, whether it's your husband, your partner. You don't even know this person anymore. But then at the core of that
Mm-hmm.
is love, the greatest emotion. And it's difficult to tear apart something or someone that you love. You just can't. It's not easy, and this is why people stay.
So
Now-
do you think, because if you are in a relationship and one side of the relationship keeps battering you, beating you, and doing horrible things to you, how can you still be loving them whilst they're killing you, whilst they're hurting you, whilst you're afraid of them? I don't understand.
It makes sense to you and I, the question that you're asking.
Mm-hmm.
But to the person in the relationship, they're not thinking like that.
So when you say they lose themselves, it's because they're not thinking.
Now, let's break it down. They've lost themselves. Yes, they're not thinking anymore
Mm-hmm.
because they've been demeaned. They've been intimidated.
Mm-hmm.
They're now thinking about the stigma. What are people going to say? You know, I call myself Mrs. Now that Mrs. thing is not going to be there for me anymore. Or people see me with my partner all the time. Now that's not going to be there anymore. People are going to talk. You see, it boils back down a lot of the times to people in such circumstances worrying so much about what society is going to think, what
The
society is going to
outside
say,
world.
how they'll be viewed. Some see it as a failure. If I leave, I've failed, because that's the sort of mentality or mindset that they
People
have.
have.
And this is why programs like this are extremely important, because we're here to sort of break that mindset
Mm-hmm.
and rather to get people to think critically and to think differently with regards to circumstances like this. For some other people, again, it boils down to their economic status. If I leave as a woman, the man is the higher earner in the relationship. Now, here I am with perhaps 2 children, 1 child, 3 children. What am I going to do financially? He pays the bills, he pays the mortgage, he pays the rent, he buys the food, he does everything. What am I going to do as a woman? for those who have, a decent amount of financial status, for some women, it's the luxury they're enjoying. Now, I know he's an abuser, but I can't afford to lose this luxury lifestyle. Yeah, he'll beat me, but yet he'll buy me the Gucci bag. And this is what I'm using to pose to my friends that, things are going well for me. I'm still driving that big car and all that. So they find it difficult to leave because of the money. It boils back down to money in the case of certain people. So for some, it's the church. For some, it's the money. For some, it's, let me stay because of my children. That's how certain people, certain women especially, also from our sort of background, have been raised. And I'm going to say it in my local dialect.
Which means, as you go into this marriage, always think about the children, and so stay in it so that the children will grow.
Yes. What we don't realize, though, is that as we're staying in, we're teaching our children. If you have a son, as a woman, first of all, if the man is the one that's the abuser, and in most cases it's the men, as a woman, if you stay and the kids are there, now what they are witnessing or what is being modeled to them is that a man is an abuser. For the daughter as well, what is being modeled to her, because you're staying, is that it is okay to receive abuse and still stay put.
Yeah.
So we find that they grow up and the cycle repeats itself. And you see, again, it boils down to some of the spiritual laws or the universal laws. So people grow up and they attract what is already in their spiritual space. Perhaps grandmother went through it. She stayed. So then mother has gone through it. She stayed. So who am I? Subconsciously, you're saying to yourself, who am I to leave? My grandmother stayed. That's what I was told. My mother stayed. That's what I was told, or that's what I witnessed. So who am I to leave? So I'm staying regardless because of my children. And then your daughter grows up and the same thing happens to her. Unless there's what we call a paradigm shift, unless something changes. And the paradigm shift will be for you to be that example to break that cycle, i.e. by leaving.
People, if you are listening now and your grandmother possibly was maltreated by her husband, your grandfather, or whoever, if you are listening now and your mother was unhappy in her marriage, tell yourself that Kiki's mother was very happy in her marriage. She had a husband who encouraged her and made her feel she was a queen. Because of that, you have to break the cycle. Now, there is a proverb in Ghana which says, if you are afraid to break a marriage, your miserable marriage, you will not get a good marriage. Open your eye, shine your eye. Listen to me. This is why we're doing this, and this is why I do this show twice a year, every year. Because it is not ending. Somebody has to break that cycle. The world is moving steadily on. Now, we have to do things for ourselves. This is a women's show. This show is for you out there. As the lady said, Marie said, if it's in your home, if it was in your childhood, break that cycle for your kids. Let your kids see you as the strong mother who left that terrible marriage. They then will know when things are not good that they too can leave. Now, this message is for you guys who are out there. Now, let me tell you something else before we carry on. In my advertising of this, and I asked for days, I kept asking if people would come on the show, because of that, people were rather inboxing me and telling me there's terrible situations and telling me that they could not come on the show because of it. Because some of them are still in the marriage. Some of them are out of the marriage but are afraid to say anything that would compromise them, and then maybe the abuser may come back and attack them. And two things I picked up from, I got about 100 messages that my friend and I were sifting through today in my office. And two things were common in all of the problems. One was when they told people, the first thing people would ask is, what did you do? That's one. Two, people would say, but he looks like a nice guy. He's nice to me. He's a nice... People's mothers would say, oh, are you sure? Yes. Now, this is the problem, though, because people, maybe women are getting bolder, women are getting smarter, so they can identify the two things which stops them from getting help. One is when you tell someone, your close friend, your mother, your whoever, and they say, are you sure? But he's not like that. What have you done? What are you doing that this man is beating you? Now, it upsets me. I was really upset because for me, I can't imagine my mother ever saying, she would never say that. I mean, she would be aghast. You know, this is not the way. She doesn't even want you to smack your child. So why would you? You know, anyway, moving away from the emotional side of things, people, listen to me. It is very important that you identify. Marie is going to come and give us, she's telling us now, her next thing she's going to tell us, what did you say they were?
The red flags.
Red flags. So listen carefully, and please, if you identify just two of these red flags, start thinking, please, what are the red flags?
So when it comes to the red flags, this is mainly to those who are in, let's say like the courtship, so early stages of the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for me, as a married woman,
Mm-hmm.
if a friend of mine who's also married comes and tells me,
Mm-hmm.
with what I now know,
Mm-hmm.
that they're going through, they're in an abusive relationship,
Mm-hmm.
my first thing would be, you must have known right from the beginning.
Really?
Yes. Because it is human behavior. It's part of human behavior. It's part of the patterns. So whatever the abuser is exhibiting in the relationship, a lot of the times they would have shown you would have seen traits of it at the beginning of the relationship. But then again, back to us women, where I don't know what it is with us, but we cover up. And a lot of times women will say to you, I saw it at the beginning, but I thought I could change him when we get married.
I see.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
So what am I saying? Red flags.
Mm-hmm.
A shove. You're in a relationship.
He gets upset.
He gets upset, he'll shove you. Or he'll push you.
Mm-hmm.
So from a shove to a push, the next time he hits you,
Mm-hmm.
then to a slap.
Hey.
That's one.
Okay.
You're going out. You haven't married me yet.
Mm-hmm.
But you feel as though you have control over me.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of even my physical appearance.
Mm-hmm.
So control. I don't like the red lipstick. Can you clean that red lipstick off? I think that dress is too short. Who are you talking to on the phone? I want to know who's on the other end. What's the passcode to your phone? You know, it's like they're policing you. Mm-hmm. They want to know your every move. They're in charge of your every move. Mm-hmm. That is a red flag. When they start speaking bad about your friends to you, they're trying to remove you away from your safety net, i.e. your friends. That is a red flag. So I don't like this friend of yours. I don't want them to come around us. So by the time you realize you're not talking to some of your very close friends anymore, they're rather comfortable with you talking to their friends. They're comfortable with you talking to people that you're not too close with. But the ones who are in your close-knit friends, they try to remove you from. That is a red flag. Your own family. You call your mom too much. Must you call your mom all the time? Must you call your sister or your brother all the time? That is a red flag. So these are, and they come in very subtle. And then if you don't nip them in the bud from the beginning.
But if it's subtle, how do you nip it in the bud? If it's subtle.
But it keeps showing its head. It keeps surfacing. It's a regular occurrence, So they won't do the same thing repeatedly. So he's not going to complain about your dressing all the time. He's not going to complain about the red lipstick all the time. So today is the red lipstick. Tomorrow it's something else. Then they'll leave a bit of a gap. But then you've got to realize that it's there. It's something that they're hammering on every now and then. Those are the red flags anyway. So if you don't nip those things in the bud and have a conversation right at that initial stage and let them know that, look, yes, we are in a relationship, but I am an individual. And you see, I've learned all this as the years have gone by. Perhaps if some of these things had happened to myself at the beginning of my marriage, I wouldn't have been able to deal with it. But I'm just blessed that I haven't been through domestic violence personally.
We thank God.
We thank God. But I have friends, I have family members. There are women who have come to me through this advocacy for women and girls. I've had women come to me with such issues. Just as you're saying, from when I posted the flyer, just between yesterday and this morning, I had a couple of WhatsApp messages, and they'll tell you that we will come and listen, but I won't comment because people are afraid. They don't want anybody to know. They're afraid of being vulnerable. This is why we feel it is important to let, especially the younger ones who are in relationships, who are aspiring to get into relationships, and so on, be aware. Some of the red flags, like the clip that you played earlier, if that girl, had she not been beaten to death, now imagine he didn't beat her to death, but then they went ahead and got married. Can you imagine what would have transpired in the marriage?
He would have still killed her.
So all we're saying is that when you notice anything untoward at the initial stages, have the conversation. And I'm not saying leave, but bring it to their awareness. That's
whose awareness?
Whoever.
The perpetrator.
Yeah, the one that's complaining all the time. So if it's the guy who's complaining about your red lipstick all the time, well, this is me and this is what I love. So if you want us to carry on, then you've got to learn to adapt. There are certain times we can come to a compromise on certain things. Vice versa. Myself, yourself, we work through them. But if it's one-sided all the time, then it is an issue.
It is.
And it needs to be
addressed.
And this is, for me, I love the word conversation. You need to have the conversation. Talk about it. And if again, that is where you see, they will reveal their true nature and their true character. And that should be an indication for you as a young woman, whether you're ready to progress with a relationship or whether you should bring an end to it right there and then.
Call it quits.
Call it quits right there and then. This is why, for me personally, I encourage the young girls now that it is okay to date more than one person. Before, when we talk about dating, we thought it was like the courtship thing and all that. But I now know that dating is just me getting to know you and you getting to know me. Now, when you do
have choice.
You do have a choice. But if you don't go 1, 2, or perhaps even 3, how are you going to be able to make an informed decision?
Yes.
If you just stick with that one, You don't walk into Marks and Spencer's, for example, and just pick up the very first thing that you go in there to buy.
You have to sample and, look at it and see that it is not torn. And
that is it.
Exactly.
Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's any sexual activity going on between the two of you.
I see.
So I think women, especially the younger ones, young women, I'm talking from the age of perhaps maybe 19, 20, up until about 25, 28, just be aware. And if you're in a relationship and the red flags are waving right in front of your eyes, at least we've mentioned some of them. The pushing, the shoving, the hitting. If they're hitting you at the stage where it's supposed to be sweet, then you can imagine 5 years down the line if you get married to them, 10 years after marriage, you know. So
some people don't even show their color until after they've married you.
There's that category of people too, you know. But then something would definitely surface at the beginning of the relationship.
You think?
I believe, and I know. I had a friend who she lives in the States, met a guy here in the UK, both of them Ghanaians. She flew him first initially to the States, you know, just to come and meet her face to face, because it was an arranged kind of thing. So then he went there, you know, her money and everything, and he felt comfortable. He went there, had a good time, couple of weeks, came back. And then she flew herself. So first off, it was her money flying him. So she's already spending on him. Yeah. Another red flag.
Oh, no, but maybe, you see, this is it, because a good Christian girl, you've met a man, he may not have, you may have the means, he doesn't, but you think he has potential. So you're helping him now in the beginning, so that as time goes on, when he finishes his education, or he may be in education, or he may be, you know, in the diaspora and he hasn't yet found a job, etc., etc. So people are always, you know, taught that, take it easy, you are young, he's young. As you grow, he will become something, you know, that blah, blah, blah.
I have nothing wrong with...
Nothing against that.
Nothing against that. However, let a man be a man.
He should pay his own way.
That's my mindset. That's my mindset. Let a man be a man. So right from the onset, she started spending on him. Now, if you're a woman and you're doing that right from the onset, you are creating some kind of problems for yourself.
Yeah, you're setting a precedent.
You're setting a precedent, and you might get yourself in a mess somewhere along the line. So back to the story, she flew him to the States, you know, a couple of weeks and everything, and then she brought herself over here to the UK, stayed with him for a couple of weeks in his flat and all that. And then she said one day they went grocery shopping. Now, you know how sometimes as women, we go grocery shopping, you put the stuff on the conveyor belt, and then you remember that, oh, I forgot to pick this, I forgot to pick that anyway. So by the time she came back, the things were ringing through. And they were her personal stuff. So I'm talking about sanitary pads and, you know, a few feminine things. This gentleman, by the time she came back, had put, you know, the block that we put in to separate, you know, one customer's things from it. He had put it there for her. And in the end, she had to pay for her own stuff herself. So she called me and she told me. And I was like, well, that is a matter of concern.
Did he have a job?
He had a job, a very good one, for that matter.
Okay.
You know. So I said, this is something that we need to look at. And subsequently, other things happened. And she used to complain to me. She would call me, she would tell me, and we would talk through some of these things. But it was going back to the marriage thing. I so want to be married. You know, I'm looking at my friends from school. We all kind of finished school together. And
everybody's married.
Yeah, and I'm still not married. And I really want this thing, and I think he's a good guy, you know.
So she's settling.
She's settling. And then it got to a point where I don't even mind. Even if I have a child with him and things don't work out, I'll still be fine. So the red flags were showing, everything was there. But clearly, let me turn a blind eye and carry on. Eventually, they got married. Less than 1 year, the marriage fell apart. Because then when they got married, whatever was showing at the beginning
manifested,
escalated. It had already manifested. That's what was showing at the beginning. Those were the red flags. That was the manifestation. Now it escalated. It got worse. You know. I like one saying, a quote by Maya Angelou: when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. A lot of the times people show us who they are, but especially as women, we refuse to believe. A lot of the men show us who they are, but we refuse to believe them.
Scientifically, anthropologically, They say that when you meet someone and you fall in love in the first instance, a part of your brain that balances and is logic, logic shuts. So you don't, people can see, but you cannot see. You do not see all the things that are, these red flags are not coming out.
Now, going back to our language, this is, I like to sometimes, when I'm doing programs like this, mix some of our local dialects. Anthony, or do Jimmy Nipa, or do Jimmy.
Yes,
going back to the logic,
stupefied.
you become like a fool. You become stupefied. And that's why I said earlier, because love is the greatest emotion. It's taking over your entire being. And men, that's just how God wired them. They have this. It's the words. Women just want to hear the words. In Ghana, they'll say a map and Jimmy for, a map and Kwasia for, in quotes. Just pardon us, but we have to be real on here. So sometimes you meet like a very decent girl. She's got her education going and all that. You look at her and the guy she's with, and you're just wondering. And everybody's seeing, her friends are telling her, but she just wouldn't listen. Why? Because of the sweet words. And today we see, as you were saying, there's nothing wrong with a woman helping their man to sort of also find their feet and, say for example, my husband is watching us live on Facebook and he wouldn't mind me sharing this. But when my husband was going through, was at uni, I had to hold the fort. I was working at the bank then for close to 4 years. I had to hold the fort until till today. A lot of the times when we do our Facebook programs, he talks about it and he still appreciates it till today.
Your husband,
my husband,
is different from a lot of men. Let me tell you that a lot of men forget the struggles that women go through while, especially to support them. Because when you meet somebody, most of the time you're young, but women move faster, and then childbirth and all of that is what stalls them, while the man now is flourishing. But by then, some of these men forget all of that. And they look at you and they think, in fact, they're better than you now, and they need
now
a better... Now
they're going to find a better woman
suitable,
to match...
Yes.
To match their newfound status. But I was talking to a lady just yesterday, talking about something similar. She says, Marie, I helped him 10 years of my life in this relationship, my money, my everything. Similar situation. Saw him through his education. Now he's got the degree. He's done his master's. It was her blood, sweat, and tears. 3 kids. He's left her. She said, what do I do? You know what I said to her? I said, regardless of all the help you gave him, you cannot tie him down, and you need to come to that realization as a human being, as a woman. You still have enough power on the inside of you. And yes, it will take you some time. You need to go through the process, because it's like grieving. It's like losing a loved one. You need to go through the grieving process and everything. But at the end of the day, you have no excuse to let yourself go and end up in a mental home because of this, because of another human being. Do not give him that power.
Especially when she said she had 3 kids.
Yes.
3 kids.
So I said, go through whatever you need to go through. We're here to support you. But at the end of the day, you have the strength in you. Dig deep and draw on the little bit of strength that is left on the inside of you and begin to build on that. So just to clear the air, I'm not saying that women should not help them. If you're in that financial capacity and for one reason or the other, you need to support your man financially, by all means, go ahead and do that. But what I don't agree with is the women who sort of step into the role of a man, because a lot of women too, I find, are reversing the role. And for me, that is where we I don't think we have time today, but that's where it goes all biblical in terms of those of us who are Christians and believe in the Bible and are church people and all that. But whether we like it or not, and I know many women out there might disagree with me, and that is okay. But God, there is a hierarchy. And the hierarchy is that God first, the man, and then the woman.
Really?
That is the hierarchy, biblically.
Okay. So for
Biblically.
those who are not in, they're Muslims or Hindu, or because I know a few Hindus are watching, I know a few Muslims are watching. For those who don't believe in the Bible,
That's what I'm saying. We don't want to go into that because
Okay.
that's quite. That is it's a path
It's
for a
a
particular
special-
group of people.
yes.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
But generally, all we're saying is that whether there's a hierarchy or not, whether you're a Christian, a Muslim, Hindu, the end of the day, you are a woman. Which I believe we're talking more to women today. You're a woman. You're an individual. You're a beautiful creation. Get to know yourself. Discover yourself. You have a purpose on earth. Believe in yourself enough to work on the God-given abilities, the abilities that you have. Even if you're an atheist woman going through, what we're talking about, domestic violence, get to know yourself better. Develop yourself as a woman. Personal development never ends. In fact, Oprah Winfrey has a quote. She has a saying, and I'm going to quote it: "The moment you stop learning, you start dying." So continue to develop yourself. You could be as you said at the beginning, at the intro. Doctors are going through this. Lawyers are going through this. Female politicians are going through this. This thing is a respecter of no persons. It doesn't know your economic status. It doesn't care about your, who you are in society. This is real. Domestic violence, abuse is real. It is happening in our homes. It is affecting our children. The reason we have so many children out there today, but especially in the UK, in the US, we're talking about knife crime, gun crime, the youths out there doing all manner of things, gangs and all of these things, is because the homes are not in order.
The homes are not in order.
The homes are not in order. Because many women, especially those going through abuse, are staying put and are allowing their children to witness these things. It is no surprise. I work in a primary school. I work in so many schools across London. Sister Kiki, we see this from a very young age. Some of it is general children's behavior. Some of it is what is being modeled to them at home that they're repeating at school. And sometimes when educators dig deep, teachers and supports that you dig, they're going through things, you speak to them, some of these things come out, which is why every now and then, some parents get phone calls and social workers have been called in because the child says, this was going on at home, that was going on, and so on. So all we're saying to women is that if you're going through something like this, first and foremost is your life. Your life is more important than anything else. Again, I'm a Christian, so I can only make reference to the Bible. So if you're not a believer listening to us, just bear with me. But I can only make reference. But I do believe that many faiths also share in this. We are a wonderful creation, created by a supreme being, who we believe, most of us believe that he's created us in his image and likeness. So we are co-creators of our destinies. So why then do you put your destiny into another human being's hands?
Because that is how marriage is actually couched for a lot of people. I think there are parts of marriage and abuse and the violence and family work, situations and dynamics that if you haven't actually been in it or seen it in your home environment, it is still, people will tell you. I mean, people told me things which really, really, really upset me over the past few days. People told me, they bored their hearts out. I don't know how to describe it. And it really upset me so much that I was talking to my friend today and I was telling her that it actually weighed me down. It weighed me. Last night, I had it was heartbreaking. My heart was broken. And in situations like this, you kind of, you have to be in it to feel it, to
yeah.
be able to deal with it. This is how I view it. I was in a very strange marriage myself, and I view it as strange because, in fact, there is this adage that says that when you put a tea bag in hot water, that is how you see the strength of it.
That's right.
Or, you know, an egg, you hit it, it breaks. But you put egg in hot water and it boils. And then
it becomes hard. Yeah.
And I think I am one of those who, I went through all sorts of things in my marriage which I found confusing. Because for me, as I said previously, my grandmother was in an amazing love marriage. I mean, it was all, you know. And then my mother also was in an amazing situation. And my aunties, you know, the world from which I inhabit, I viewed marriage in a totally different way from how my marriage was. So I then became stubborn, intransigent, and all of those things because I just couldn't deal with this. It was alien to me.
Yeah.
And eventually it ended. Now, I could pick up a lot of, you know, but I think I have a fighting spirit. So I looked at it in a totally different way that now I look back on it and I can identify abuse of different types, and you know, and blah 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 blah. Not so much the violence, but other, you know, all sorts of uncomfortable situations. Yeah. Now that I'm out of it and I'm in a relationship, I'm always in awe of the guy because he is absolutely different and so kind and so understanding, and the whole thing is so playful, and yet it is great, and yet it is, you know. So I think slightly differently from you or from some of the things that you're saying, because I think you have to be in it to actually identify the problems. And
so let's be specific. So can you give me an example of some of the things that you sort of have a different mindset to?
I think when you talk about red flags that you saw at the people can see at the beginning, and then it escalates or it grows bigger, and I don't think people see the red flag because, for example, if you have a child, it's your child, and your child can be a little bit stubborn, and then you say, "Oh, come, I'll do this for you," and you negotiate the whole thing, and the child calms down. It doesn't mean that child is going to grow up and become some killer or monster or something. And so women automatically have a nurturing spirit. And so when you meet somebody and maybe in the beginning something happens or whatever, you do not actually see it as a red flag. It is on hindsight. Those red flags are only seen on hindsight. It is later on, when you have identified, when you have gone through all of the horrors of your marriage, and you are now in extricating yourself from it, that is when you can remember things. And I'll tell you one truth. People go through marriages, horrible marriages, and they are not even aware that it was horrible until they come out of it. When things get really bad and they strengthen themselves or somebody helps them or whatever the situation is, and they come out, when you think back on it, regardless of whether you're a Christian, Hindu, whatever it is, Christianity has nothing to do with it because you are in a situation. I think the Christianities and all of those religions, they actually make your situation worse. But when you are of clear mind, when you've moved away from it, when you remember certain situations 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, that is when you see that red flag. Trust me on that.
I cannot trust you 100% on that. I cannot trust you 100% on that because I have spoken to women who will tell you that I see, I'm seeing it now.
Mhm.
I know,
Mhm.
but I still want to go ahead anyway.
No. No,
You
no.
know, there are
I know
there are
that.
there are that category of women. So
Mhm.
in that case,
Mhm.
they are seeing it. I suppose from where you're coming from is the angle of perhaps they were blinded to it, but now we have a label for it. We have a name for it.
No.
So now we're able to say this is what it was. It is called perhaps, red flag or however
No.
people want to call it. But there are some women who would tell you that I knew right from the get-go because I saw these things. But I still wanted to be in it.
That is a different relationship, because if for example, if you know that this man beats his girlfriends and you think, but he's rich, so I'm going to go for it. It's a totally different thing from a person meeting, just a normal
But
girl.
he beats his girlfriend. I'm still going to go ahead. That, well, in a way, is a red flag. But perhaps, you haven't experienced it yourself.
Mhm.
So it won't be until you're in it and experience it that you'll be able to say, yes, this is what it is.
Mhm.
What I'm saying in terms of the red flags are, and I, gave a few examples, it is the hitting when you are in it and you're experiencing it.
Oh, yes.
We are now telling you that this is what it is.
Mhm.
So be aware. And this is why we're having this conversation. This is what it is, be aware. Because there are some people in relationships, they're being shoved, they're being pushed, they're being hit, they're being, all manner of things happening at the initial stages of the relationship, and they think it's normal. They think this should be happening.
I agree.
When I get married or whatever, I'll be able to change them or it will stop. What we are saying is that these are warning signs.
Of course.
These are signals.
We can say, you see, that's what I'm saying to you, that yes, these are red flags which we are identifying as we sit here chatting. However, when you are in a relationship with someone, you will not know.
But and that's what I'm saying, that some do. And they say it themselves.
They say it
some do.
After.
Not always. Some
Before
do.
they marry them, they can see all of these things.
I gave you an example of a friend of mine.
Yeah.
Who would call me and that's just one example from the top of my head right now. There are people watching me, and so I don't want to share too much.
No, you don't. You don't have to. I even talked about mine.
Yeah.
So it's not a big deal.
I had a lady who said to me, you know what? Oh, these things that you guys are saying, for me, it's the wedding gown. By all means, I have to wear that wedding gown. And if I wear the wedding gown and the very next day it goes, when it ends, so be it. At least I also wore a wedding gown. So for me, if you're now, I'm now seeing you going through the abuse in your relationship. Well, you saw it at the beginning anyway, but you still made a decision to go ahead. So what we are now saying to women is that some of these things, we're not saying it happens in every relationship, but in some cases, it shows its head up right from the beginning. And you do see it, and women will tell you this, that, oh yes, I saw it from the beginning, but I still wanted to go ahead.
Some women.
Yes, some women. Not all. But it's happening. It's happening, which is why we are having the conversation. So if you fall within that category where you are seeing it now, but you're still choosing to stay, what we're saying to you is that it will not change. In most cases, statistics show that in most cases, it only escalates. It doesn't change. So if you can do something about it now, please do.
Okay. Now, people, if you can identify a red flag, red flags have been said, as it is happening to you now, you have to know that this coupling or relationship or marriage is not correct for you, and you have to do something about it. People also worry that if they leave their husbands or partners or whatever, their life will change. Where are they going to live? Some people are sending messages to me saying, when you're in the marriage, if you are in a job, try and save even a month's rent or something. Or if not, try and keep some money with somebody. So that,
very important as a woman.
As a woman, you should always have some money. Now, there are women who, because of they are being controlled, they do not have a job because the man doesn't want her to work and she should stay at home and blah, blah, blah. Now, if that is the case, what do they do?
Well, what we can say is that for a woman like that,
Who doesn't have a job?
you don't have a job, some are not even allowed to come to the front door. That's how bad it is.
Yes. And
But you have children. If you have children who go to school, you could write a note.
Give it to your teacher.
Put it in their lunchbox. Tell them, I've put something in your lunchbox. You know, show it to your teacher. What we are saying is that the help is there.
Okay. We're going to talk about
the help is there. Don't suffer in silence.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, also, people are saying they did not hear the video, the thing that I played, the audio. So I'm going to put it on all the social media things in this recording, so you can watch it all. I'll put the recording in there. I'm going to play some music, and when we come back, we're going to talk about. We've got an extra half an hour, even I think. So when we come back, we're going to talk about where you can get help from, how you can get help.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to give you another warning. There's a warning coming up. So people, get ready for some music. That's not the song I wanted to play.
Can I greet my audience here? Hello, winners. Good evening to you all. Thanks for joining. Thank you so much for your love and support. Please share the video for me and for my wonderful auntie here, Auntie Kiki. She's doing an amazing job. So we're at ABN radio studio. But this is such an important topic. It cuts through all, religion, race. It's a universal issue. Domestic violence is happening to many women. It's happening to many men as well. So this is not just a women's conversation. It's a men's conversation too. So please go ahead and share the video. And if you can, invite friends to watch. But if you share it, that's enough. I really appreciate you joining me tonight and my wonderful host. So thank you. God bless you. Continue to stay on. We're not done yet. Thank you. One second, guys. What people are going through.
I know.
Since we started time with Eric and Marie 3 years ago, I tell you the things we hear.
I only had, 5 days of recording, and it has really upset me. Because, the thing is to allow it to get to that point. It's horrible. And they have kids and the kids can see it. That's unacceptable. Anyway.
Sometimes if you're not careful, you might not even have any empathy for them because you saw the signs right from the get-go. Is this woman I know in nature? I can tell you that. Can you not see? Because she's married to one of my family. Can you not see? The more treat and everything? She said, look, I want to wear that wedding gown.
So she did. And then what happened?
Do you understand?
Yeah.
She said, look, what's the way you're doing a wedding in India?
So she did. And then what happened?
And now it's practical. Not yet, but it's just hanging. And she's told every time that she's got in the light, but you saw it at the beginning. You knew. So it's important that we drum that message out there.
We'll be coming back in a few seconds.
Oh, Oh, Susie Knock, thanks for your message. Thank you. But we're not mentioning anybody's name. We're just reiterating the fact that it's very important we have this conversation. But anyway, thanks for your feedback. Thank you so much.
Hello, and we're back. And we're talking about domestic violence, domestic abuse. We're talking about ways in which people can identify the abuse in their homes. It's not just him hitting you or you hitting, whatever. It's not just that. It's not just the violence. It's the abuse of your mental, your mind, the children, how it affects them, how it wrecks their belief in family setting. It also weakens their resolve towards all sorts of things. They then learn and pick up bad habits, and then they take it into their grown-up life. So abuse is a dangerous cycle, and the whole idea is to break the cycle. Break it, break it, break it, break it, break the cycle.
Very important.
Break the cycle. So I've got Marie here. She's an educator. She is interested in women and children. She's an advocate for all sorts of things, educating children, children being taught under trees. She deals with all sorts of issues, and she's here, and we're trying to trash it out. Hello, Marie, again.
Thank you for having me, Auntie Kiki.
It's calling me Auntie Kiki. The woman is trying to make me look old.
Oh.
But yeah. Yeah. So here we are again, and we're continuing. Now, one of the things we would need to talk about and to let people realize that they can get help from whom? Is it the GP? Who? Where should they get help from?
So basically, there is help out there that, especially if you're in the West, UK, US, Europe, there is help that you can access. There are shelters. You can find some of these information from your local borough. So if you make a phone call to your local borough or you visit the borough's website, there's a lot of information on there, wealth of information on there that you can access. You can also speak to your GP. They can refer you to counselors. So there are counseling services out there. Some of these things are free of charge. You can access them and get the support that you need. You could join a support group. So sometimes even within your borough, if you type it in, support groups with regards to your particular issue, you'll find other people who've been through what you're going through, who have formed support groups, and you could join them. That way you have trusted people to speak with.
How do you find those people? Again, how do you find the people who are going through the same people as you? Is it from the GP?
No,
or
from the support groups online. So there are a lot
online.
Of online,
Okay.
yeah. So, for example, I could go in and type domestic violence support group Lambeth, for example, and something would pop up. And a lot of the times there's websites, there's phone numbers, contact details, emails and stuff. You can reach out to somebody. They can then lead you to, where they hold their meetings and stuff like that, so that you can go and be a part of a group like that and, access the support that they have for you. They've been through it. They have experience. They're people you can trust, because a lot of the times they're people you don't know from anywhere, so you can trust talking to them. There's also your children's school. The schools are not just there to educate your children. They're there to offer similar support. They can lead you to the right agencies to give you help.
Children's schools?
Yeah, you can speak to your children's teachers. You can speak to the head teacher in your children's school. Let them know what you're going through, and they'll be able to make contacts with relevant agencies within the borough to give you support, because then it's not just yourself, but it's the child involved as well, your child who attends their school. So they'll be able to give you support. And then I believe, most important, if it's to the extreme and you really, 999, the police. You call the police.
Yes, you call the police. And when you call the police, If you feel you're in immediate danger, call 999 or 911. And when you call them, say this is a domestic violence issue and you are in immediate danger. You have to do it. If you feel that you need help, that is the one thing. And there are in this country, we have the National Domestic Violence Hotline. So they will give it to you straight away, or they will call for you and put you through. So that is also one way. The other way of doing it is go and get up in the morning, say you are sick, and go to the GP. I do know, in one of the emails that I got, somebody said to me that even going to the GP, her husband goes with her because he thinks she's going to tell him something. So she never has, the only time she's on her own is when she's at work. Now, I think domestic violence now, there are areas, people you can talk to in HR, who you don't have to tell your line manager, but you can go to HR and talk to somebody there and say, please, can you help me, blah, 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 this is my situation. They will help you because there are now laws on that. You know, there are unions now who deal with this kind of situation as well. So you go into HR, you tell them what it is, and they'll put you through to somebody. This is there. You can call the police from work. You can do anything. Once you're out of the house and the perpetrator is not with you, you can call the police, you can tell somebody, you can do anything. So think carefully, size up your situation. It's better for you to be alive, especially if you have children. You know, so when you protect yourself or when you save yourself, you're not just saving yourself, you're saving yourself, your children, even your parents if they are alive, or your dependents. You have to take responsibility for your own life. Sorry, I have a cold and it's going and my voice keeps going and I feel like coughing, but I'm trying not to cough. So there you are.
So just to add to what you've just said, I mean, in terms of, you gave an example, like you don't have to speak to your line manager. For me, if it's a dire situation, this is not the time to say, I'm feeling shy, I don't want anybody. This is your life. One life we're talking about. Just find somebody and speak. If it's somebody on the road, stop them and say, can I talk to you? All we're saying is that there's help out there. Access that help. Speak up. If it's gotten to the point where you really need to save your life, speak up. If it's at the grocery store, speak to the teller. Tell the teller, you know what, can you find me some help? Whatever it is that you need to do to save your life and save your children's lives, do it.
So, yeah, I mean, the main thing is to call for help. You have to be able to... Women are very intelligent. You are very intelligent beings. Women, I know you need love. You operate with love and all of that. A person who maltreats you, who makes you doubt yourself, who makes you uncomfortable in your home. When I remember years ago, my cousin, I was talking to my cousin and she was saying, why did you, why did you leave your husband? Why did you get a divorce? You could have worked it out. And I said to her, and she always quotes it to me these days, that one of the things I said to her was, I need to sleep. I need to close my door and sleep. And I couldn't do that. I was always on guard. And it was horrible. The whole thing was an emotional roller coaster. And all I needed was, when I go to a party, when we go out and come home, that's when you spoke to this person, you did this, you did that. I need to go out, come home, and sleep.
Just that. Simple.
So that is the reason. That is my reason. Do you understand? So people, you have to find your reason and you have to deal with it.
Yeah, and also know that you can't change anybody. Change your own self. Change starts with you.
Yes.
So you focus on your own self. Love yourself enough to do what's best for you and for your family, your children,
Yes.
your family.
Yes. For yourself, your children. You guys do not know that the minefield that you're in, when you come out of it, what a wonderful world it is. It is a beautiful world. But whilst you are in this minefield, you may not even know what is happening in the outside world, but it's a beautiful world. And the world is your oyster, and you can really stand and think and then move on. And I'm telling you this from experience. Now, abuse is a very serious situation. You may have to take drastic measures, such as getting friends, family, or even the law on your side. You have to do things to be able to get. And in the beginning, it seems harrowing, and it's an unknown world.
And you feel lonely.
Yes, you will feel confused even.
Yeah.
But you will come out of it. Trust me. Trust me. I'm telling you this. You will come out of it. And you will be I don't know how to describe, it's like the butterfly and the chrysalis and the whole thing, the process of the bug becoming, and then suddenly you have wings.
This is why sometimes I tell women that I counsel on such issues that what you're going through now, what would you tell your 16-year-old self? So write a letter to your 16-year-old self.
Wow.
And what would you tell them? Whatever it is you would tell your 16-year-old self from your experiences today, practice those.
Wow. What would you tell your 16-year-old self? That's basically it. What would you tell your 16-year-old self? So when you think about it, your responsibility is to keep yourself alive and your children alive. And you need to get your act together in such a way that regardless of what people think, one of the things I always say to people, and I'm saying it to all of you, is who cares what people think?
Who cares? At the end of the day, who cares?
In the end, they don't know what you eat. They don't know how you manage your life. You meet them 5 minutes outside, and then you've got yourself and your children to deal with. You should not give a toss about the implications of their thoughts. It's got nothing to do with you. Their thoughts are not your thoughts. Your thoughts is survival.
That's right.
That is yours, your imperative. That is the most important thing to you is your survival. So people, we have very little time now. I have 7 minutes. And in this 7 minutes, I need you all to think deeply about this whole show that we've done. All the things that Marie has said, all the things that I'm saying. And I think we owe it to each other, me and you ladies, that you have to keep yourself alive. Now, Marie has more things that she's going to tell us in a minute so that we wind up. And then I may play some music if we have more time.
Oh, I didn't realize I had more things to say.
Marie didn't realize.
I didn't know I had more things to say. So what, in closing or what, to conclude?
Yeah, to conclude.
Conclude.
In a nutshell.
In a nutshell. So in a nutshell, what we would say, or what we've been saying the past hour and a bit, is that you are precious. Male, female, you are precious. Your life is precious. Domestic violence, abuse, any form of abuse, the emotional, economic, sexual, physical, verbal, none of it is pardonable. So don't allow it. You are too powerful to hand over your power to another human being.
Mm-hmm.
And to those who do the abuse as well, we want to tell you.
We'll hunt you down.
No, we won't hand them down.
What
But
will we tell them?
you've got to discover yourself.
Yeah.
You've got to discover yourself.
Yeah.
You are better than that.
Yes, you are.
You are better than that. So discover yourself, find your own self, and you'd realize that there's more to life than the abuse that you're dishing out.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it's from your own past experiences, childhood experiences, and so on, you are better than that. So you also can seek help. For such people, there's also help. Similar agencies we spoke about, you can go and ask for help and they'll be able to help you. I do believe that people change. We are not saying that these are monsters. I do believe that people change. It could be for one reason or the other why they've become, such a person, an abuser. But there is help out there for such people, and you can change if you allow yourself to change. But ultimately, we're saying to everybody that your life is dear, your life is precious. So take care of yourself, look after yourself, and say no to domestic abuse.
Now, what I need to tell people is one of the biggest things we find in all of this discussion is people who abuse their spouses, girlfriends, children, etc., etc. They have an inherent insecurity. There's something going on. Now, it is not for you, the abusee, the person who's being abused, to become the counselor for that person, because you then become the punch bag or the person who. It is for you to suggest that the person gets help, or you help the person to find help. It is not for you to help that person by forgiving them and, oh, he will not do it tomorrow. He will do it tomorrow. Trust me, he will. Because it is a mindset. And that mindset, somebody stronger, and when I say stronger, not physical, but somebody more experienced, somebody who it is their job to do that, is the person who is going to bring them out of that situation. So I'm advising you all, the person who is being abused, please, you can't change the person. That person needs help from outside. And if you feel that your life is threatened, run away, go somewhere, call someone, call somebody, a body, a person, whoever. Get out. And if you have children, realize that that is your responsibility to keep those children alive and well and healthy of mind and body. You yourself, mind and body. I advise people all the time, and today's advice to you is, you are your responsibility. Love yourself. Love yourself enough to do what you have to do. Okay? My time is practically up. I'm going to play one bit of music, and after that, I'll be gone. And we can come back next week and talk. Next week, we're talking about bereavement. Family bereavement, how it affects children, how it affects people, and how we deal with it. My mother died quite a few years ago. I'm still shaken by it. I am still crying. I am still distressed, and I need counseling. So I had some counseling. So I'm going to advise people, and we're going to talk about how we deal with it. Okay? So people, this is it for now. Bye-bye. Be well.
Thank you guys for joining. God bless you all. I'm gonna end the video now, but thank you so much. God bless you. Bye-bye. That was wonderful.
My people, as you know, It is pure love that makes me do these shows. And so because of that, we've had this very emotional program on domestic violence, domestic abuse, emotional, every abuse. The thing is to love yourself enough to protect yourself and to save yourself and to save your children. So it is from there that we're talking about this. I do this all the time. I talk about this particular subject twice a year, and I'm going to talk about it again. Today, I was lucky to have Marie. She's here. So I don't know if people can see. Marie, do you want to show them your face?
I don't mind.
Yeah, well, bring your. If you get up now, you'll be on the screen.
Hi.
There's Marie! Yay! So, people, we shall speak some more. And I see that lots of people have put up comments. I'm going to answer your comments. And I'm also going to put that video, the audio thing that I put up for the girl who got killed. It's all there. So that you have a flair of what we were talking about. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Be well. Oh.